Well, the show must go on. As much as I don't want to come on here and do this and deal with the comments and everything else and even talk about this team right now, I'm absolutely disgusted, heartbroken, everything you could possibly think of. I'm experiencing all of it in real time. But let's do it. Welcome to the Ace here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And the New Jersey Devils, guys, back at the Rock this afternoon, hosting the last place in the entire league. The last place in the entire league, Vancouver Canucks, looking to win back-to-back games for the first time in what feels like an eternity. And the New Jersey Devils lay an egg, a complete stinker, falling by a score of 2-1 to the Vancouver Canucks, who I may remind you for a third time is the worst team in the entire league. The worst team in the entire league, and the New Jersey Devils lose by a score of 2-1. There's a lot to get to. There's a lot to discuss here, but this one was absolutely tragic. There's nothing else to say about this. This game was absolutely disgusting. We get to the goals. Devils take a penalty early on in the game. We've seen this kind of story before. Early penalty. The PK just has such a fall from grace. A special teams unit that started off the season so promisingly. And obviously, Brett Pesce is a big part of that. But the penalty kill has fallen off a cliff. And the Devils are down 1-0, 1 minute and 1 second into the game, folks. A minute one, DeBrusk gets one on the power play. And you just feel what was already a dead crowd from every account. It looked like it on TV. People there were saying it. We'll get more to the crowds and all that in a bit amongst the many topics to touch on here. But DeBrusk gives them the 1-0 lead. And at that point, I was just beside myself. This game was a must-win, in my opinion. I mean, not a you guys know, but must-wins are, a true must-win is like you need to win to get into the playoffs or something. So it's not a must-win in that regard, but it's one of those games where it feels like one just for so many different reasons. Markey coming back, we talked about that with his struggles, and right away we're behind the 8 ball again, down 1-0, a minute and 1 second into the game. And then a little bit later in the period, they're back on the power play, and they get another one. Zeev Buium. I might be butchering his name. Some of these names, Zeev Buium. I've heard different pronunciations. Gets a power play goal off of a lucky or unlucky for the Devils redirect off Brendan Dillon's stick. 2-0 Vancouver at 6:48. And at that point, I knew the game was over. The team just didn't have it today. Second game of a back-to-back. It is a big problem. I'll get to that a little bit later as well. Keith talked about that in the post-game press conference. But the game was over 6 minutes and 48 seconds into the game. Congratulations, Devils. The game was over in under 7 minutes. First period ends 2-0. And for those keeping score, and we'll circle back on this as well, because there's just so many different things to talk about, and they're all kind of intertwined here. Zeev Buium was a guy. Now, I'm not the biggest prospects kind of guy. There are people that pay very close attention to this, and they study film, and they study all these things. I'm not one of those guys. I'll be the first to tell you. I casually pay attention to it, but I'm not doing deep dives and all these things on prospects like a lot of people do. Zeev Buium could have been drafted by the Devils a couple years ago, and instead they elected to draft Salayev, the big Russian kid from the KHL. A lot of people, including one of my buddies, shout out to Dr. Dan. Dr. Dan was freaking out about this at the time. He was super high on Zeev Buium, as many people online were, and different, all these different social medias, whatever. A lot of people wanted him. And why I bring that up as a kind of point of importance is because Zeev Buium was one of the main pieces traded from the Minnesota Wild to the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes, obviously a huge swing and a miss by Fitz. Again, we're going to get into all this. But Zeev Buium, one of the key pieces that landed Quinn Hughes, and he could have been on the Devils or property of he would have been playing for the Devils had we had drafted him. One of the pieces for Quinn Hughes. We go to the second period. Devils down 2-0. Played much better in the second and third. Obviously, I'm not going to take any, the silver linings and the platitudes and the, whatever else, moral victories. We're way past that now, folks. We are in dark, dark times. And if you're not believing it, and you guys know I'm not a doomer. I called out the doomers for years. This is not dooming. This is just coming to face with reality and acknowledging what is happening. And the ship is sinking. Slowly sinking, and the GM is somewhere in witness protection with his hands in his pockets doing absolutely nothing for the third season while another season is slowly slipping away before our eyes in real time. 2-0 after one. Better second period for the Devils. Lukehughes gets the puck charging towards the net, and he does what he does. He just rips it on net. Great to see Lukehughes score another one, albeit in another loss. But Lukehughes getting going is a positive thing for this Devils club. We need Luke to continue to tribute offensively as much as possible, especially with all of these injuries while the team is consistently playing a ton of AHL players. But Luke cuts it to 2-1 at 4:02 of the second, and that is all the scoring for the rest of the game, my friends. The Canucks were certainly happy to ride this one out and hold on to the win. Devils had a couple chances with the empty net. Nothing came to fruition. Devils lose 2-1, and I'm disgusted. Game stats, Canucks 15 shots on goal. Once they had their 2 goals, they're like, this game's over. And Keith talked about that. I'll get to that after. 15 shots on goal, 26 for the Devils. Face-offs pretty close. Canucks 48.2%, Devils 51.8%. Once again, penalty kill, just not getting it done. Canucks go 2 for 3 on the power play. Devils go 0 for 3 on the power play. Horrible, horrible night once again for special teams. You go 0 for 3 on the power play and you give up 2 out of 3 on the penalty kill. That's a recipe for a loss. And tonight, you could say that special teams lost this game. I will say this was a special teams loss for sure. You get 1 kill out of 3 attempts and you get nothing on the power play. Canucks 22 hits, Devils with 18. Canucks 15 block shots, Devils with 11 block shots. Canucks 9 giveaways, the Devils 16 giveaways. Canucks 4 takeaways, the Devils with 3 takeaways. And we get to the player stats. Nace 2 blocks and a hit. You like to see the blocks and hits. Cody Glass with a block and 2 hits. Connor Brown 3 shots and a block. Palat with 2 shots, 2 blocks. Paulcotter 2 hits. Jesper Bratt 4 shots and a hit. Brendan Dillon a block and 3 hits. Siegs with 2 blocks, 3 hits. And Markey 13 saves on 15 shots. 867 save percentage. Obviously not good. I'm not going to blame Markey for this one whatsoever. And unfortunately, once again, the team failed to show up in front of Markey. We could have won this game. I mean, special teams is you got to look in the mirror. Special teams lost this game. Deserved to win a meter? Pretty close. I actually thought it was going to be more in favor of the Devils, if I'm being honest. They outshot them a lot and some decent chances, but in the end, Demko played pretty good. Devils 52.6% on the deserve to win a meter to the Canucks 47.4%. And in the end, it doesn't matter. This is all just silly, silly nonsense that means nothing. And the Devils lost the game. And so I sit here, I am angry, I am upset, I am disgusted because, like I said, guys, this team, I hit the panic button a long time ago, and you guys know that. And I would consider myself somewhat conservative in that fashion because the people I would classify as doomers, were hitting it night 1 against the Hurricanes. I give it all time to kind of come together. And then when I feel it's appropriate, after I've seen enough of a body of work to identify or at least see what's going on here, then I will hit the panic button if necessary. And I was at that point after the 3rd consecutive loss on the second 3-game losing streak. So they had that 3-game losing streak a few weeks back. Then they won 3 in a row. And for the moment, I was a little bit eased. And I think many of you were as well. It was like, maybe that was just a little slide, a little blip along the way, but then they lost 3 in a row again, which ultimately became 5. So it was 3 losses, 3 wins, and then 5 losses. After the 3rd loss of the 5-game losing streak is when I hit the button. I saw enough. You can't have, and at that point, again, it was 3 losses, 3 wins, 3 losses. That was already, all right, it's now happened twice. We need to see changes. We need the reinforcements. And keep in mind, guys, that was all prior to losing. All this losing was occurring. And do not forget this point, because this is a huge point. Those losing streaks were happening with Timo Meier, with Arseny Gritsuk, and with Shimo Nemitz. That slide happened with those guys. We are now in a time, an apocalyptic world where we are without those guys. So think about that. We lost, was that 6 of 9 with those guys? Now we're going into battle without those guys. And so if that team with those guys lost 6 of 9, what do you think the horizon's looking like for the team without those guys? Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Obviously, it's unacceptable how far the team has fallen without Jack Hughes, but the answer is not to sit idly and do nothing. The season is slowly slipping away, in my opinion. Now, some people say, oh, this is overreaction, and but look at the standings. What has this team done as of late to make you believe that they're not exactly who they've shown us to be in these past few weeks? They've now lost, what is it, 7 of the last 9 the Devils have lost. 7 of the last 9. They've lost 6 of the last 7 at home. What more do you need to see to say, yes, now would be an ideal time to bring in some help while we could hopefully, and people talking about, oh, all we got to do is go 500 as if that's something easy to do. We lost 7 of 9. You people are hallucinating talking about going 500. 500. So we lost 7 of 9. Let me even do the math on that real quick for you people that are talking about go 500 as if it's a given. Go 500. What are you, nuts? 7 of 9. That is 222 points percentage hockey, folks. There it is in the chat. 222. And you're talking about going 500 as if it's just this easy thing to do. And just go 500 until Jack gets back and everything's fine. How is that happening? How is that happening? Unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunate, but a lot of people live very in the moment. And this is whatever I'm saying right now is not a reaction of being in the moment. It is a reaction of what we've seen from the past couple seasons with the inactivity in season and what this team has shown us within this season. Multiple losing streaks, 7 of 9. It's right before your eyes. This is what this team is at the moment. And so to believe that they're just going to be able to tread water until Jack Hughes comes back and he's going to be the miraculous savior is psychotic. Because guess what? I got news for you. I got some news for you. Even with Jack Hughes, this team, there will be, peaks and valleys. There will be some little losing streaks, even with Jack. And so, yes, still plenty of season left. The standings are still tight, but for how much longer? Because the team that you saw on the ice this afternoon very well may be the team you see until the new year. We don't know what's going on with Timo Meier. Again, hopefully everything's okay with his family. But Timo, Nemo, and Grits all may be out until the new year. They could be. And so what do you believe this team is going to do from now until then? Because again, rewind. Those losing streaks occurred with Grits, Nemo, and Timo in the lineup. So what do you think about the team now subtracting those guys away? And then you're talking about going 500? 500. What a dream that would be. If we could sign me up for 500 right now with an AHL team, the new Utica Devils, sign me up. That is not reality. The unfortunate reality is with the team we iced this afternoon, the results, losing to the last place team in the league, by the way, on home ice, scoring a single goal, scoring 1 goal in a loss to the worst team in the National Hockey League on our home ice. The results you will see from this group going forward is way more in line with the team you saw today versus the team you saw yesterday. Now, yes, that was a gutsy win. It was amazing. They pulled it out. Somewhat encouraging. But the reality is, with the group that we have available to us right now, the team you saw yesterday and today, the results will be more in line with what you saw today than what you saw yesterday. That is the reality. And so to believe that this team is going to miraculously go 500 until Jack Hughes comes back and being down Timo, Nemo, Nemitz is insanity. You are wishing the season away. If reinforcements are not brought in, I think you saw today what this team is capable of doing, and that is losing to the worst team in the NHL, scoring a single goal in the process. What more do you need to see? The time to bring in reinforcements is right now. It was time 2 weeks ago, which now brings us back to our failure of a general manager, an absolute failure. Anyone who's still defending this guy, I try not to get hyped up because I'm just so beaten down over the fact that this guy has just burned the franchise to the ground. But let's talk about it, right? Why not? It came out yesterday, I believe, from Elliot Friedman that the Wild swooped in and Billy G, balls of steel, steals Quinn away from us, largely in part because the Devils couldn't act quick enough. And why couldn't the Devils act quick enough? Because they couldn't create cap space to make the move happen. And why couldn't they create the cap space to make the move happen? Because Tom Fitzgerald was trying to get out from underneath several horrible contracts that he gave out with trade protection. With trade protection. I forget who I saw a tweet from earlier today. I believe the Devils have the most players in the league, or tied for first with trade protection. And listen, it's a necessary evil in some of these negotiations. Sometimes you get a guy for a little cheaper because you give him the trade protection. But in the end, you can absolutely not give trade protection to every single player you ever sign. That is how you put yourself in the position we're in. And so it's not only a bad contract, because sometimes with bad contracts, you could still find a partner and figure out a way, whether it's retention, picks. A lot of times you could still get out from underneath some of these bad contracts. But it's an increasingly difficult task to take on when they're bad contracts and there's trade protection. And so Fitz shot himself in the foot, as he does, and could not make the Quinn Hughes deal happen because of the bad contracts he had for guys with trade protection. Let that sink in. And now bringing it full circle, and one of the pieces that the Wild used to get him was a guy that many people, and I'm not going to take credit for this because I wasn't one of these people. Like I said, I'm not this big prospects, draft guy. There's these people that kind of live in this world. I'm not one of them. But there were tons of people saying that at the time that Salayev was a bad pick and they should have got Buyum. Now, Salayev could still have a great career. People are saying, oh, he's struggling in Russia. Like that's not even really relevant to what I'm saying right now. The point is, a piece that we could have drafted was a key piece in the trade that got Quinn to the Wild from Vancouver. And so now when you look at this and you're like, okay, so not only does the guy give out bad contracts with trade protection, he then cannot figure out a way to clean up that mess to facilitate what arguably would have been, I don't even know if it'd be arguable, actually. I think it hands down would have been the biggest trade in New Jersey Devils history. Let me think about that. I think it would be. Firmly landing Quinn Hughes would have been the single biggest trade in New Jersey Devils history for sure. And he could not get it done because of his prior moves. And the thing that makes it even more furious, guys, the things that makes me even more furious about it is the Quinn thing did not come out of nowhere. We've all been talking about this for how many months? This wasn't a surprise. You had months to plan and prepare for this. A lot of people wanted Dougie and Polak on in the summer. And again, it didn't happen. Now, I didn't kill him for it right away. We talked about it, and it was a little concerning. But I think even I gave him a little bit of the benefit, like, he may have a plan in place or he's whatever. But in the end, tons of people killed him going into the season with these guys. Tons of people were like, what the hell is this guy doing? And I was a little more lenient because I was like, when the time comes, I think he'll have something kind of lined up. Silly me. He had absolutely nothing lined up, caught with his hand in his pockets once again. And the prize that should have been ours with the inside track, Quinn was begging Vancouver to trade him to New Jersey. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy the kind of spin that, oh, their package was so great, we couldn't have matched it or topped it. We absolutely could have. Bullshit. And I don't care about the center thing. Yeah, Vancouver wanted a center. We could have got Quinn here without trading Nico. Sorry, I'm not buying any of the package stuff. We had the pieces. We could have topped their offer or at least matched it to where we would have got Quinn. The real problem was the lack of cap space because of the bad contracts with the trade protection. He couldn't get him out of the way. Vancouver's media was running wild with this. And I told you guys I was half right. I had predicted about a week ago. I said, the situation in Vancouver is terrible. This is a huge distraction. I think Quinn Hughes becomes a Devil by the weekend. And the half right was Vancouver did trade him by the weekend, but it was not to the Devils. It was to the Minnesota Wild because Billy Guerin is a cunning GM with balls of steel. That is a win now move, folks. Billy G showing people what win now really looks like. And so when you sit back and say, we saw 23-24, no goaltenders brought in, the entire fan base, everyone in the hockey world was like, what are the Devils waiting for to get goaltending? Well, apparently, according to the powers that be, Tom Fitzgerald, there was no way to get an NHL caliber goalie from anywhere. Meanwhile, last season, we saw the Avalanche replace their tandem with former Devils goalies. And I'm not going to kill Fitz for that. I've talked about this. Blackwood, Wedgwood, like, fine. It is ironic, though, that the Colorado Avalanche replaced their whole tandem with former Devils goalies in season. I cannot believe for a single second that there was not a single NHL caliber goalie anywhere to be found while the team in 23-24 slowly drowned because of poor goaltending. And then we get two goaltenders on deadline day when it was too late. Capo Kakinen and Jake Allen. Far too late. Team cannot make the playoffs. Season over. Unforgivable sin. Should have been fired then. Should have been fired then. You let a team coming off a franchise record-setting season the year before, 112 points, beautiful 7-game series win over the Rangers, to then take 5 steps backwards and miss the playoffs in the fashion that they did, slowly bleeding out because of goaltending. Pathetic, unacceptable, should have been brought behind the barn at that point, 23-24. But then some people give him a pass, injuries and this. The injuries and the injury excuse. Okay, then we go to 24-25 last year. Team starts off like gangbusters. First 3 months of the season, everyone's talking cup. It smelled like a Stanley Cup, or at least a legitimate Stanley Cup contending team. And then they fell off. We had that dreaded holiday break. They come back. They look like absolute trash. Calendar year 2025, they play terrible. Everyone begging for reinforcements. Get us some help. Then Jack goes down, unfortunately. Season-ending injury. Bring in the punt team, baby. Jack Hughes is down. Why would we make a move now? The season's over because Jack Hughes went down, so the season's over. And people ate this stuff up. People ate this stuff up. The season's over. Punt it away, baby. Better luck next year. Better luck next year. Completely inexcusable. And then what was the help brought in? Sprong and Glass. Jack Hughes goes down, and you told the rest of the team, sorry, guys, you're not going to get it done, obviously, without Jack. And so we're just going to make little minor moves for the illusion of trying to improve the team. Complete slap in the face to any sort of fan that has half a brain cell left, and to the team in that locker room. An underwhelming deadline for the ages. Devils limp into the playoffs and get absolutely cracked by the Hurricanes in 5 games. And now here we are, 25-26. The in-season inactivity continues. Jack Hughes, Chicago cut, gets Chicago cut, and the team is just in free fall. In free fall. They have Fitz hiding in witness protection, won't face the media. Again, whiffs on Quinn. And now what? And I'll even say I would have accepted if there was like a deal, if he made a deal or two like the day after missing on Quinn, because I do believe, and this I will give a pass for, because if you're trying to go all in on Quinn, you're obviously not going to be making any other moves because you need to have all the assets and everything ready to go for the Quinn deal. But the second that the news broke, or however he found out, actually, I'm curious to know if he knew beforehand or if he found out like the rest of us. But the second Quinn went to the Wild and you knew that that deal was dead for you, there should have been 1 or 2 other deals waiting to be made immediately, because now the Quinn thing's out of the way. That was the holdup. Now you move. Now you bring in help. It did not happen. The Devils win the game yesterday, and he's probably sitting back like, yeah, see? But today they showed what they are. Yesterday was an overachiever game. What you saw today is much more aligned with what I would expect to see going forward with all of these guys out of the lineup. We have 6, 7 AHL guys in the lineup. You are not going to be 500 as all these delusional people. Just be 500. Just be 500. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. That is a fantasy, guys. That is a fantasy. 222 points percentage hockey. Losers of 7 of the past 9. I do not know what more you need to see to realize you are now watching the same movie we already saw. Slightly different characters, slightly different plot line, but it's more of the same. The 3rd season in a row that anyone who's paying attention sees the issues and there is refusal to do it. And that's it. And that's it. I got nothing left. I am so beaten down by watching the same stuff year after year. A once promising core that should have had multiple chances to legitimately run for the cup is now it's just slowly being suffocated. The pillow over the head slowly being suffocated before our very eyes. And it's crazy. And the sad part is the season is far from over. But as long as they let this guy sit around and do nothing, the season is over because he's going to do nothing. If there was a competent GM here that could try to clean up this disastrous mess that he made, I would have a lot more faith. But every day that this guy is still employed by the Devils and allowed to manage this team into the ground is malpractice on the owners. Complete malpractice. Now, we get to the crowds. A couple of people were chirping me about this. They're like, oh, it was the snow. It was the snow. Tons of people are at the game today texted me that the crowd was dead. There was no one there. It was empty. And that was the case for the Lightning game. I was at the Lightning game, dead crowd. There was no snow to don't tell me it was because it was snow. There was no snow. Lightning game empty. And the game yesterday was fairly empty as well. And so people chirping me going, oh, it's because of the snow. I don't know why people feel the need to try to defend anything that's remotely negative about the Devils, but sometimes the truth hurts. And the truth is the attendance today was sparse. Yes, a little bit because of the snow, but more so because the guy that people pay to play wasn't there, right? Jackhughes, that people pay to see me play. Anytime your blockbuster superstar is out of the lineup, that's going to hurt ticket sales a little bit. But you know what hurts more than that? Icing a shitty team. Icing a shitty team and telling people, come pay to watch this. The team's playing terrible right now. I'd imagine tons of fans in the stands had no idea. And this is not to whatever, but, I've talked about that. The difference between you hardcore folks in this chat right now, shout out to all of you guys. Win or lose, we booze. Hold on. Sorry, guys. I'm just so fired up. Win or lose, we booze. We're going with Dwayne The Rock Johnson's Terramana. Terramana tequila. Numbing the pain of being a Devils fan since at least 2024. Cheers to all of you. Win or lose, we booze. Oh, yeah. Let that loser beverage go down. We'll chase it down with the Surfside. Where was I? Talking about the crowd. Yeah. Most of you in here, because you're by nature of regularly watching or engaging in the chat room of a YouTube channel talking about your fan, you are in the higher percentage of fans that is way more engaged and involved in the team. The majority of fans at the games are what I would consider pretty casual fans. Like I said, they don't let the team affect their mood. Once they leave, it's over. Yeah, good time at the Devils game. They lost, they won, whatever. They don't care. They go home, go about their life. A huge percentage of those people at these games are probably like, who the hell is this guy? When they're looking at the names of Crookshank, Perrant, so-and-so. They're like, who are these guys? And that's because half the team, not half the team, but a good chunk of the team is AHL players. And you want people to pay. You don't get a discount for that, right? It's like, oh, a third of your NHL regulars are out. Do the ticket prices get discounted by a third? They absolutely do not. And so now you want people to, again, use their hard-earned money to pay to go see a team that has been absolutely horrific for the past few weeks. And people were chirping me going, oh, it's because of the snow, Then someone said, oh, because people bought tickets to go see Quinn Hughes. Like, buddy, if people bought tickets to go see Quinn Hughes and now he's not on the team, they're certainly not going to just not go to the game. So that's ridiculous. Again, I'll give the snow played a little bit of a factor. But in the end, if you wanted to go to this game, I was all over the place today earlier in the day. And like the roads weren't great, but it certainly was not going to keep me from going to the Devils game if I decided to torture myself in that fashion. And I decided not to go to the game today because I had plenty of other things to do. And I cannot, in my right mind, pay money to go see this team right now. I cannot. And you guys know, I love this team. I will always support this team. But for a while, I think until Fitz is gone, which may never come, I think I'm going to have to support them from afar because I cannot pay money to go see a team that refuses to make any sort of meaningful change and consistently insult their consumer base. And as a fan, we are being insulted right now. We are being insulted on so many levels because, one, they're telling you this roster is good enough. Come to the game. This roster is good enough. It is a not competitive roster. No trades are being made. And so you are insulting me as a fan. And I will show my displeasure with my wallet. The only way I can, aside from this, but no one cares about this, right? I mean, I'm just some idiot talking to the computer, right? Easy to write that off. But I will choose to spend my discretionary dollars on something else that gives me better value and something else that does not deteriorate my mental health. My dollars will go towards that because it's not going to be paying to go see this team play games. That is absolutely for sure. Number two, as an insult, not only are you telling us that this team is worth paying to come watch, you're telling me that the current general manager is doing a good job, which he absolutely is not and has not. And so I've seen enough, and I hate to get to this point, but I'm done. I am done spending $1 on this team until I either see a meaningful trade or Tom Fitzgerald gone. One or the other. But if there's no change, I'll watch every game on television. I'm fine with that. I love going to games. It's been a part of my life since I was a kid. Like I said, I'll always love and support this team. But at the moment, I will not financially support this team because it's unjustified in my opinion, and it's being part of the problem. If you consistently financially support a team that treats its patrons, its customers, the fan base, treated like this, you do not deserve my money. Period. You do not, and I will not give it to you. And so I'm done for now. Horrible game. Horrible state of affairs. Captain THC is the biggest clown on the planet. Go root for the Rangers. I'll never root for the Rangers. Ever. Ever. But now we go to the chat, folks. I've said most of what I had to say, and we now go to the chat. Southside Johnny, not a popular opinion. I'm open to trading Nico. Not a leader in game, is vastly overrated. So tired of the Selke convo. The dude is constantly on the ice for goals and is -2 on the season. I love Nico. I do love Nico. I think he's a very good player. I've also said that with the team performing the way that it has as of late, any and all criticisms and things like this being thrown out into the, into the world, they're all fair questions to be asked. Almost anything you could come up with now is a fair question to be asked because we've seen this before. And for a team to consistently just tank without Jackhughes, at some point you got to look around and be like, what are some of the other constants or parts of the problem? Is there some blame for him? I would say it's a fair question to ask. I'm not going to say that that's definitively correct in what you're saying, but it's certainly a fair thing to pose as a question because we don't know, right? Is he a bad leader? I don't think so, but he's been a leader of a team that's just cratered when Jackhughes is not in the lineup. And so by default, you'd have to attribute at least some of the blame to him for sure. But I do love Nico, and I think he's a very good player. Natasha, Luke's goal was sweet. It was a nice goal. It was a nice goal. Unfortunately, it was all for naught. Spirit in the Sky says, if I were Nico or Brat, I would have asked to be traded. I don't know if they will go that route. Hold on one second. I'm getting tons of messages. This is insane. I don't think they'll do that, but I do think it is a very real possibility that nicohischier does not see himself here long-term. And I said this months ago. People told me I was crazy. Like, oh, Nico's going to sign long-term. He's a Devil forever. I said nicohischier wants to win. And does he believe he could win a cup in New Jersey? If I was nicohischier, I would certainly think not. And we've seen, I'm not going to get into the 10 million reasons why, but this organization certainly does not seem to be serious about winning, because if they were, Tom Fitzgerald certainly wouldn't be employed right now. Period. Hard stop. He would not have his job today. And quite frankly, from a long time ago, he wouldn't have had it if this organization was serious about winning, but they're not. And to think that players don't see what other GMs and other teams are doing around the league and then compare it to what's happening in the franchise they play for. And so because he might not want to sign here, you may see a very similar situation to what we just saw with Quinn Hughes. He doesn't see his future there long-term. He relays that to the team, and they cash him in for the best possible package. We're staring right down the barrel of that, folks. Frank, I bought my tickets right before Jack got hurt, paid like $225 each. I could have bought those same seats night before the game for $20 apiece. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that, Frank. That often happens when you're playing in the speculative world of, I think I should ban Captain THC, guys. What do you think? He's just talking smack. I think he's going to get the ban. Speculative markets, like tickets, like the stock market, they go up and they go down. But I'll tell you now, if you're planning on going to any games in the future, which I'm not going to do, or at least I'm not going to pay for a ticket. I have several friends that have season tickets. And so if I get invited by one of them, I will certainly go, but I will not buy another ticket or anything Devils until we either see a meaningful trade or Tom Fitzgerald is canned. That's it. Bobby, thank you for the super. It's a sad day, Ace. This team just continues to disappoint and once again fail to build any momentum. Speaking of drafts, Fitz effed the 2020 draft. Fitz destroys everything he touches. Fitz destroys every single thing he touches, and he should not be allowed to manage this team another day. I'm still holding out hope, even though I don't think it's likely. I'm hoping that I wake up tomorrow, or maybe not wake up to, but maybe sometime by lunchtime, we see the news come out that Fitz has been let go. Because anything short of that is a complete slap in the face to the entire fan base by the New Jersey Devils organization. Bobby, thanks for another one. I also add, without Jack, Brad is useless. He can never capitalize in clutch situations. He constantly fails to come through in clutch situations. Listen, I love Bradder too. But if we're being real, racking up assists here and there while Jack Hughes is out and we're desperate, and all these other guys now on top of it, we're desperate for any sort of offense. He's been completely underwhelming since Jack has been gone. That is a fact. And so here we are. But thank you, Bobby. Just what a disappointing afternoon. Really is. Walt, I could have gone to both games this weekend, but I couldn't justify spending the money on two games that were likely going to piss me off. Yesterday was a surprise, but today was what I expected. Yeah. Lose to the worst team in the league and you score a single goal. Unreal. I can't blame you, Walt. I can't do it to myself. Natasha, I must have not been here. A person can try, but I can't even watch all the lives. I get it. I mean, you're going to watch a guy yell at the camera about a team that is absolutely disgustingly bad right now. I get it. But I know a lot of you, this is kind of therapy. I guess it's, in a way, it's sort of therapeutic for me as well. Typically, and again, years before I had this channel, me and a few of my Devils fan buddies would have these conversations. But now, instead of having it with them, I'm kind of having it with you guys in a camera. But I mean, this is just like, when is enough enough? Richard, gave my kid and his friend my 2 seats in 120. My kid texted and said, you could have heard someone fart in the arena. It was so quiet. Yeah. And to my point, for the people saying, oh, you know, the attendance is not a big deal, maybe finally that will get someone's attention in the organization, because I believe the next time that they're home and going forward, until there's something happens to give people some sort of hope, I think there's going to be some very sparse crowds. And they deserve it. They did it to themselves. Michael, only game I'll be attending for the next month is probably the game on the 27th, only because my nephew is pumped to go to his first game. Other than that, telling my rep to buy back my tickets. I don't think you'll be alone. I mean, why are you going to spend your time to go watch these games? They've told you this is our team, a third of them being AHLers, but you should still come and support. I mean, it's ridiculous. Timu, thank you. I'm over days. I stopped watching completely and just look at comments. Call me a bad fan, but I cannot watch this anymore while nothing changes. So that's where I differ. The only thing I will do as my, I guess, just sort of trying to hold on to some sort of mental sanity or integrity or whatever, I'll never not watch. I will always watch, but I will stop spending the money. I could make myself do that. I could never not watch. I just love the team too much, love the sport too much. I'll always watch, but I'm not going to pay money to go watch. I'm not going to pay money to go watch. You don't deserve my money. And it sucks for the guys on the team because they have to pay the price too. But in the end, they're already getting their money regardless of whether we show up or not. And so it makes me feel a little better. Yeah, they could benefit from having a lively crowd and the fans and all that. But in the end, they're a sort of casualty of war, if you will, because I am not giving them my money. I'm so sorry, but you will not get my money. You will not get my money. I've been insulted for far too long. It ends today. You will not get my money until there's something happens. Like I said, either a meaningful trade, and I'm not talking about spare parts trades, because some people tried to chirp me with that too. Like, oh, you complain and, they made trades. You just didn't like them. Spare me. Impactful trades. And I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of what that means. You all know exactly what that means. Do not go get some spare parts and be like, try to give the false illusion of improving the team. Not going to happen. Real trades that improve the team, not some nonsense like we saw last year. Pyro, thank you for the super. I'm going to just put Heaven on loop with chocolate ice cream. And for those that are not familiar with what he's referencing, Heaven being the New Jersey Devils 1995 Stanley Cup VHS tape. And for those youngins that don't know what VHS tapes are, back in my day, we had VHS tapes. This is the medium before DVDs. A lot of you will know what DVDs are. VHS tapes that you had to put in the VCR. And it was the Stanley Cup tape for the 1995 New Jersey Devils, and brings a tear to my eye. It's still on YouTube. You could find it for those that have never seen it. For the older fans that know exactly what it is and want to kind of relive it, you can find it on YouTube. Younger fans who don't know and want to see what a once proud franchise looked like, go watch Heaven and how far this franchise has fallen since those days. A once proud franchise, the elite of the elite, a franchise other teams looked up to and admired and that they wanted to be. Lou Lamoriello, God bless Lou Lamoriello, guys. That's all I could say. Without Lou, I don't even know. Dave, thank you for the super. This is sad. I scored a Zephyr red and black cap hat, fitted medium large hat on eBay. See if that helps my hat dilemma. Man, I miss Lou. I think we all do. Anyone who is here can quickly identify the difference between what we are living through now and what we had while we had the legendary Lou Lamoriello, a man who cared about nothing more than winning. Nothing. Nothing was more important than winning and organizational excellence, and did everything he could to make the team a perennial cup contender, and that he did. And like I've said before, the ending was not so great, but when you win 3 Stanley Cups, you get a pass in my book for ending with a crash and burn. You brought 3 cups. All right, I'm getting back to the comments, guys. Sorry, there's a lot of comments. Shout out to everybody for coming out, especially after a game like this. Like I said, it's probably very hard to watch the games for a lot of you. Again, I'm going to always watch. I'm a glutton for punishment. I'll always watch. And for some of you, it may be tough to watch these too, but it's probably therapeutic for some of you in some way. A lot of you have given me that feedback. And so it's a commiseration afternoon. Michael says protests are legal. 50 to 100 people outside of their arena demanding changes. I'm not going to lie. I hate protests. I just think they're more for show. Like, I guess it depends on what it is. But in the end, I don't think doing any sort of protest is going to do anything if I'm being fair. I don't think it'll do anything. But I certainly would be entertained if people decided to assemble one. I'd certainly watch from afar and hope that it did something, but I don't think it would. Danny, I've been watching Devils since I was young and seeing this team now. I never had faith in Fitzgerald since 2021 or after that 7th place season. Oh, man, you were out on him super early. I had no major beef with him until after the 23-24 season when we slowly drowned without goaltending. He didn't get gets 2 goaltenders on deadline day. For me, that was the last straw. All right, we're speeding ahead here. Fitz's IQ is 0. Walt, and casual fans are not going to go see a team that's losing over and over again. Hardcore fans will, but not the bulk of the crowd, which are casual fans. Yeah, which is why you're going to see a lot of empty seats until something happens. There is going to be a ton of empty seats. And like I said, unfortunately, that may be the only single thing that will get the attention of Tom Fitzgerald's employers. And that would be the owners of the New Jersey Devils. That may be the only thing, unfortunately. And like I said, it sucks for the players that they have to kind of get caught up and get hit with friendly fire. But, you know, unfortunately, it is what it is. That's the only thing that's going to remotely bring about change. And even with that, I don't know that anything will happen. X2May says, you can become a Canucks fan. We welcome you. I appreciate the offer. I'm going to stick with the Devils, but they are absolutely crushing my soul. But I do appreciate the offer. And hopefully, you know, there's some brighter days ahead for your Canucks. It sucks that the whole Quinn situation obviously really sucks for Canucks fans. But you got some decent young pieces back, and let's see what the Canucks could do with it from there. Natasha, the unfortunate thing is I think if we do end up getting a GM change, it will be this summer. Well, that'll be too late to salvage this season, and that would mean they allowed Tom Fitzgerald to burn 3 seasons in a row, 3 consecutive seasons. I don't know what the hesitation is. The problem is staring everyone in the face. He is the problem. Get rid of him today, right now. Right now, the season is still able to be saved, but you allow this guy to continually do nothing. He shouldn't be allowed to make another move, period. David, what's up, Ace? I apologize for yesterday. Finally, reality has slapped me in the face. Fitz is wasting precious weeks going by. He needs to make a move by Christmas or be fired. Terrible effort today. I don't even know what you're referring to, David, from yesterday. I don't take too many things personally, so if it was something like that, but completely. The guy should be gone. Sherry Devs, ownership seems to care more about PR than icing a competitive team, making us all suffer. It certainly seems that way. I'd be curious to know if they even have any clue of how terrible this guy is at his job. And this is just not people like me, you know, just talking stuff for the sake of it. I mean, if you go back and trace all of the things, the record is what it is. It's not someone's opinion. The facts are the facts. And if you look at the facts with all the things that he's botched, which is most things, the last straw should have been this losing streak or this, you know, losing mostly, past couple weeks, whatever you want to call it, losing period. And I don't care about the injuries. I'm tired of hearing about the excuses. There's no more excuses. Injuries happen to everybody. It sucks. Blah, blah, blah. Not valid. The last straw for the owners, I thought, could have been whiffing on Quinn Hughes. And the reason we whiffed on Quinn Hughes is because of prior bad moves that Fitz made. And so the biggest move that the owners wanted, for sure, there was no bigger move to the owners than getting Quinn Hughes. They saw dollar signs, they saw marketing, they saw advertising, they saw just revenue coming from everywhere, every direction. The money they would have been drowning in money and exposure and media and all the stuff that they do care about. They would have got all of it and more had this idiot been able to find a way to get Quinn Hughes, but he could not. He failed at his single largest mission, bring Quinn Hughes to the Devils. And he couldn't get it done. And he couldn't get it done because he handcuffed himself with his other bad moves. What more do you need to know? That should have been the last straw for them. Because even if they don't care about winning, great, we don't care about winning. But now he just messed with the money. He straight up messed with the money. The Quinn Hughes buckets of cash that would have been flying everywhere, he single-handedly prevented that from happening. And there's no one else to blame other than him. Because I do believe the Canucks were going to do everything in their power to trade Quinn to the Devils. And it did not happen because of Fitz's ineptitude. Unreal. Unreal stuff. Jared, Nico and Timo might be the only guys in this team that don't constantly let us down. They do things that don't always show in the stat sheet. It's the baby-ass soft guys we need to get rid of, not them. I mean, there's a lot of problems right now. I'm not trying to, point the finger at any one individual outside of the general manager at the moment. But questioning the core is certainly fair. And I will say, without major additions to the existing core, which I think will be hard to do because of cap space and all these issues, I don't think they could get it done. And so it is a fair question to say, is it time to break up the core? It's certainly a fair question, and I think we're at that point. There needs to be a foundational change, an earth-shattering move that will send ripple waves through the locker room. But we're going to see more of the same, guys. I'm not expecting anything. Spirit in the sky, teams have injuries, but they don't have a total collapse. Totally. It's unacceptable that one guy goes down and your team just falls apart. Every team has injuries. They don't look like this. Seabones, I dream of hearing the day that Tom Fitzgerald is fired and we could rebuild. I don't think but the thing is, that's why it's even more maddening to me, right? Because I don't think they need to rebuild. I think they need a competent GM who could get rid of some of these contracts, figure out how. And I'm sorry, I'm not believing that there's absolutely no way. I think he doesn't want to pay the price to clean up his mess and his mistakes. And I think the price would be, unfortunately, probably retaining on some of these contracts and or adding a pick or prospects for the privilege. I think he's just refusing to pay that price. And so the problem just continues to be worse. And it cost us Quinn Hughes. And the team is struggling on the ice on top of it. Crazy Alex, how are we sure Quinn would have even wanted to come here due to our performance? Also, is there any Fitz trade rumors, or right now does he think he's fine since we won last night? First of all, Quinn Hughes did not have trade protection, number one. He was going wherever he was traded. But number two, even if we were the worst team on the planet, the fact that his brothers are here, he 1,000% wanted to be here. And Fitz could not deliver on that because of his prior mistakes that hamstrung him. That is a fact. Per Elliot Friedman. I think I speculated about it yesterday or even a couple days ago. It was like, yeah, not only was the package thing an issue, I do think he could have matched or beat the package. The real issue was we did not have the money because he couldn't get rid of these contracts with the trade protection. And these are things that should have been done 6 months ago, 5 months ago. All right, I got to skip ahead here. Michaels, thank you for the super. Ace, appreciate that you are here every game. I have to step away after performances like this. You are value to the fan base. Merry Christmas, brother. Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate that. I know a lot of people hate me and a lot of people talk smack, but like I don't even care. I know there is a lot of you that do enjoy this, and I appreciate all of you. Like I said, it is kind of a group therapy for all of us that love this team. And a lot of us, to varying degrees, but a lot of you are complete diehards like myself, and you bleed with this team. And right now it's just so frustrating to see what's going on and what's not happening to try to improve the team. And it's just maddening. It's completely maddening. And we're all just watching the same shit over and over again. But thank you very much, Michael. Merry Christmas to you as well. Happy New Year. Hopefully you find your way back here for some of these games. But if you take a break for your mental sanity from this team, I totally understand. I wish I had I don't know what I would call it, the discipline or something. I don't know. Maybe it's not discipline, but I wish I had the ability, I guess, to separate myself from this team, but I can't. I'm a glutton for punishment. I will watch every game for all time, but I will draw the line at spending money to go watch it. I will not pay money to be tortured in person. David, thank you, sir. Dead on about the biz side of the Quinn deal. Yeah, I mean, that should have been the last straw. It's just ineptitude on top of ineptitude, which is why we did not get Quinn Hughes. Like, you gave out these bad contracts, which I'm not going to kill a guy for bad contracts. I'm going to kill a guy for bad contracts with trade protection. And then knowing that this Quinn thing was looming in the atmosphere, because we all knew it was. Shit, I made a video about it 8 months ago. As soon as Rutherford said that stuff in the Canucks end of season press conference last season, I said, guys, this is it. Everyone that saw that knew exactly what this was. He's planting the seed. Quinn is a goner. It was obvious at that point. Obvious. And then I'm not going to get into the whole thing of, because we have the two brothers, like obviously they're privy to information that's not public. Let's be real. It's just real life, right? And so he knew this was there from 8 months ago. Priority one should have been making sure everything is set, everything is in place, so that when Rutherford presses the button for Quinn to be shipped off, that he comes right into our loving arms and becomes a member of the New Jersey Devils. But that did not happen. That did not happen, and that should have been the last straw. And now you couple that with what this team is doing on the ice, Hands are still in the pockets. What are we waiting for? Till we've lost 12 of 14? Right now, we're at what, 7 of 9? I mean, it's psychotic. It's psychotic. I firmly believe that most people in this chat would be a better GM. It's crazy. But here we are, guys. This is our reality. Dave says, glad I missed the game. Yeah, you should be. It's unbelievable. David, what's really going to frustrate Devils fans is O'Reilly or Stamkos does get traded to another team. Their return will probably be picks and maybe a player or prospect. Devils have all that to give. No, better luck next year, man. The future is bright. Hold on, guys. Hold on, I forgot. The future is bright. Hold on, the future is bright. Let's put on the future's bright glasses, and we'll talk about how bright the future is and how we can't waste assets. We can't waste assets. We gotta stockpile all those draft picks because the future is so bright. It's unbelievable. It really is just completely discouraging. Wow. But the future's bright, guys. Don't worry about it. And for those that continue to somehow defend this guy, you're in the vast minority at this point. But there's still some of these delusional people out there. And I said it a million times. You keep waiting for this bright future that never is going to come. It is never going to come because guess what? We're right now in the years that we were promised and told about during all those really shitty years, like the 15, 16, 16, all those really brutal years of Devils hockey that we were sitting through. And they were telling you the future's bright, the future's bright. Those years are now, and they've been for the past few years. That was the bright future we were supposed to have. And it is burning before your eyes. Season after season ticking by where the inactivity and just complete malpractice at the helm is going to burn this entire core. Their whole run is the windows closing right before your eyes. But keep talking about the bright future because we're supposed to be in those years right now and it hasn't happened. And so keep clinging on to hope, guys. Maybe 2028, maybe 2030, maybe 2040. But you're talking about a bright future that has never come and certainly will never come as long as this imbecile is still employed by the New Jersey Devils. Presify, thank you for the super. Hearing we'll be getting Kadri tomorrow. This is from a source that I very much trust, so I guess we'll see. Shit game today, losing faith quickly. I mean, that's interesting. Kadri's been a guy on my list for sure. He represents a little bit of a risk, in my opinion, because of his age with the years remaining and his cap hit. But guess what? That's a win-now move. That is a win-now move. If you now look at the New Jersey Devils in a healthy situation, and you look at your center depth, and you got jackhughes, nicohischier, Nazem Kadri, and Cody Glass as your 4C, that looks like a true cup contender down the middle. Now, what happens at the other spots, whole different story. But when you're looking at center depth, I'll say that's a pretty decent core of centers. I would say that would certainly look like a cup contending center group. I would love to get Kadri. And aside from, offensive production, he obviously has that dog in him, guys. Heavier, edgier, more violent. He's not the biggest guy, but he certainly has that snarl, plays a nasty game, and will drag guys into the fire and into the fight. We've desperately needed a guy like that. I would love him and another guy like him on the wing, but that would be a start. But I do feel like in terms of, job security for the inept, he should still be gone regardless. Even if he gets Kadri tomorrow, nothing's changed in my opinion about Fitz. He needs to be gone regardless, but Kadri would certainly be a step in the right direction, in my opinion, because as most of us know and have talked about, even with Jack Hughes and the team fully healthy, there was still some needs for the roster if they wanted to be a true cup contender. Because even with Jack, the 8-game heater and all that stuff was great, but there's still a lot of work to do on that roster if you really want to go on a cup run. And obviously 3C and a top 6 winger have been the ones that everyone's been talking about forever. It was ignored in the summer, but we're not ignoring it here. We wanted that still even when we were playing well. Those were pieces that needed to be added to a Jack Hughes group. And now without him, what is the holdup? We need those pieces with Jack. You're watching 7, 8 AHL players, maybe 6. I got to sit there and count them, but you're watching a ton of AHL players on a nightly basis. And so if we need those pieces with Jack Hughes, What the hell are you waiting for to get them? We could certainly use them now, right now. What are we waiting for? I'm just fired up, guys. I'm so pissed. All right, sorry. I'm just going off on rants, guys. I apologize. I appreciate you all being here. Carlos, red button needs to be pressed. Fire Fitz completely. David Chime, smashing the red button on GM firing. Don't forget to smash the like for Ace. Appreciate you, David. Thank you. Please hit the like. You know, we're just trying out here. Jeep beep. I'd say we truly become a contender if we get Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, it puts us closer to it. Does that by itself do it? I'm on the fence. I would say when we're healthy, if we can consistently, keyword being consistently, play like the team we saw during the 8-game heater, and then we add O'Reilly, you could be right. My issue is that I don't know how consistent they're going to be. That has been a current theme of this team, is the inconsistency, but that could put them close to being a contender. Now, if you're talking about a healthy team with Ryan O'Reilly and another piece, I would say I do believe they're a contender. As crazy as it sounds, I would be a believer. But those things need to happen first, and I don't have any reason to believe that this guy is going to do it. Nicole, well, technically we scored 2 goals, but Dilly scored against our own team. I love him, but that was painful. Yeah, it's super unfortunate luck. World's Worst Gamer, I got my 3 Stanley Cups. I really don't care anymore. I knew it was a clown show that could not be stopped when I heard about the ownership of this franchise. Oof. It's rough. Arnott, listening to Keith's postgame, I don't think he has any respect for these players. Don't know how many times he said there are mental hurdles. They're not tough enough for back-to-backs. Team is shit. Yeah, these are all things that I meant to talk about that. So the Sheldon Keefe postgame press conference was, and it was still, he's always kind of in control of his emotions and stays pretty even keeled, but you know, you could kind of read between the lines and notice his temperament. And it was probably one of the more kind of frustration moments I've seen from him. He certainly was agitated. He did mention the back-to-backs. He's certainly getting tired of them not performing well on the second game of back-to-backs. And he's certainly also cognizant and frustrated by the fact that they seem to kind of, you know, pout and play like shit when they give up goals. Like he mentioned all these things. And so it's all very fair and it's all very real. And I do think Sheldon Keefe, again, I think he's a very good coach. He's been dealt horrible hands, has had to do magic tricks with these spare parts he's been given, AHL guys all over the place. And I think he is very aware of the shortcomings of his team, and I think it's starting to wear on him. I really do. Carney, Fitzy couldn't get Quinn because he couldn't clear the cap space due to these garbage, no-move, high-value contracts he's executed. Correct. Brian, wasting years and years of precious primes of our top-notch players. There are 25 other GMs that would have built a better and more successful team with this core that's in its place. Completely agree. Brian, you're spot on, Ace. Make big trades, get quality players. Other teams do it all the time. Why can't we? What is Fitz holding on to, afraid of? I don't know. Because he just can't get out of neutral. He's just sitting there looking around while everything's happening. And the craziest part is, for a while I've said he's hoarding these future assets and clutching onto them like they're bars of gold, which makes me really concerned, because if he had any fear of his job, he would spend those assets to make win now moves. And the fact that he's not, he's clutching onto assets for a future he should not be a part of. And that makes me believe that he believes he's bulletproof and his job is not in jeopardy, which is even more alarming. Circling back to the Quinn deal, a lot of people speculating that in Minnesota that Billy Guerin's job could be in jeopardy. So what does he do? He says, screw it. He makes the ballsiest trade we may have seen in years. Pays a decent price for what could amount to be a 2-year rental of Quinn Hughes. Wild. He's like, you know what? I might not be here. I'm making a ballsy move. I'm trying to win now. And he ships it to get Quinn Hughes for 2 years. This guy's doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so it makes me believe that he doesn't have any sort of fear for his job. His seat is not remotely hot, and everything is sunshine and rainbows. Just hanging out. It's unbelievable. Complete malpractice. All right, I'm trying to skip ahead, guys. Bear with me. I appreciate you all for being here. Wow. I never thought there'd be such a low point in mid-December, especially after the first, month or so of the season. Benjamin says, the whole "we'll get him next year" notion is exhausting. I'm just about done with the whole mess. I can't blame you. Beachmaster says, owners are afraid of a new GM because they might see Jack as the problem. Listen, I'm just as frustrated as anybody else that Jack Hughes is injured every season, whether that's an on-the-ice injury or a Chicago cut or whatever else, injured in a pillow fight. At this point, it doesn't even matter. The reality is it sucks. He's hurt every year. It is what it is. I was really hoping this season was going to be different. And it was different in the fact that he didn't get injured while playing hockey. He chopped his finger off, however it happened, at a steakhouse. But the entire team cannot fall apart when that happens. And so while Jack not being healthy is frustrating, the problems are way bigger than that. Sunrise Arts Center, the owners are a conglomerate who are so big they can never sense the true urgency to fire Fitz. Status quo is fine for them. It's unfortunate and a far cry from who we were. Tell them. Timo says these owners are the worst. Official Sergey. If they get rid of Fitz, it would be too big of a shakeup, maybe. Why? We need a splash for the forward group. It's obvious we have playmakers, but no finishers. Stamkos is needed hugely. Oh, people are going to give you a lot of crap for that. At the right price, I would love Stammer, but Stammer alone is not fixing all these problems either. But I do think he would be a nice piece for this team. A lot of people are going to disagree with you, but, I'm not going to sit here and go back and forth on that point. But I would firmly love Stammer. World's Worst Gamer, I don't care if it sucks for the players. They can, at this point, so many players these days do not play with passion, do not give 110%. The NHL is garbage in so many ways now. I mean, that's life in general in sports. But, yeah, I think a lot of these guys do treat it more like a job than a job combined with a passion, and that's unfortunate. But that's just human nature. I think you see that in every sport. Adam, fire Fitz, get Lou back. He would bring in back Lou's rules, dress code, groomed. Luke needs to get a Mach 3 Gillette blade. His facial hair is equivalent to one of Dano's eyebrows. Oh, man. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Southside Johnny says, Jack is a problem. The team consistently falls apart when he's out. It just shows his value, and some people discredit Jack. Makes no sense. The injury shows he's a top 10 player in the game. I see both sides of this. I see the frustration that the previous comment I pulled up about Jack being hurt, but, you also have to, what Southside Johnny is saying here is completely accurate as well. It's like, it sucks that the team falls apart, but that just shows you how valuable and how good he really is. What more proof do you need? This man is the entire team. As much as it sucks to say it, you never want one guy to be your whole team, but they can't do shit without this guy. It really does just go to show you how good and how valuable he really is to this team. It's crazy. True Patriot says we are the laughing stock in the NHL today. Unfortunately, I have to probably agree with you. I think that is the case. Rebuild the rebuild. Yeah, we were promised a bright future. When is that bright future coming? 2070? It's crazy. Oh, man. Brian, any other GM would tie picks and prospects to plot in Hamilton like yesterday and bring impactful players in here to further better the team and surround the talent we already have. Yeah. And I think I mentioned this, I don't know how long ago, but at some point I said, I think he does not want to pay the penalty for his sins. And that penalty would be exactly what you're talking about, Brian. Either in the form of retention and or picks prospects. There definitely is a path to move on from these. The problem is he does not want to pay the price to do it because it's a further admission of your prior sins. But doing it and paying the penalty is way better than sitting back and doing nothing and just living with it. It's just the problems just keep snowballing. And that's why he needs to be gone, because he's not going to be able to dig himself out of this mess that he created. Someone has to come from the outside and just take the shankings, take those knife stabbings to pay the price and do whatever you got to do to turn this thing around. And there's still plenty of time, but not all the time in the world. True Patriot, so funny. Ticket reps calling all week with upgrades and sweet tickets and swag. I laughed at him and said, you guys are a joke. Never hear from you and winning. You just want people to sit in the seats for optics. Yeah, this is a business. This is a business. So yeah, Yo Holmes, it was a stellar game. Stellar game. Ethan, you're upset about not freeing cap space, but you also wanted to keep Hamilton for this year. Yeah, Ethan, I did in the summer. And for maybe the first month of the season. And you must have missed yesterday's live. I think I touched on this yesterday. Given how Shimo Nemitz's season went, which has been obviously his stock is rising simultaneously while Dougie's is kind of going down. With the cap situation being what it is, I firmly have been saying now for quite some time that you have no choice and it is time to trade Dougie. We need a spot on defense when Kovacevic comes back. We need his $9 million freed up, even more than that. And you have to run the risk with the young guys on the blue line with, Luke and Nemo hopefully picking up that slack. But I'm not going to walk it back. I'll always own what I said. And I did not want to trade Dougie coming into the season or probably for the first month of the season. Now, given, again, I always say the mark of an adult or a competent person is that you are allowed to change your viewpoint or thoughts with new evidence, data, and examples. And with the evidence, data, and examples of the NHL season thus far, I have now firmly moved away from my thought at the time of keeping Dougie to now you must trade him. That's it. Frank, as a Jersey sports fan, my choice today was watch the Giants, watch the Devils, watch the Jets. I watched paint dry. My mother always said I was a smart guy. Oh, man. Stickfix says, do not go to the games. Do not buy merch from the team. Do not entertain those ballsy ticket reps. Speak with your wallets. Harris and Blitzer only hear money. Entertain this crap, and this crap continues. And unfortunately, this is where I'm at. It sucks that it's come to this point, and obviously one person alone is not going to make a difference. But collectively, if a lot of people get to this point, then the lesson will be taught. Whether it's heard or not, I don't know. But I do think if that kind of goes on for a long enough time and those crowds are sparse and they see all the revenue down and everything they're tracking, merchandise, concessions, whatever it is, then maybe then and only then we will see positive change, which includes with removing Tom Fitzgerald from his office immediately. I mean, he should be arrested for the crimes that he committed. Never mind. Losing his job is letting him off easy. He should be in jail. But I'll accept the firing. Ace, they should sign as a GM. Are you asking me who they should sign? I want Marty to get the job. A lot of people disagree with that, and that's fine. I'm not going to battle people back and forth. But if not Marty, I'd call Brendan Shanahan. Brendan Shanahan. Mark, what's going on? Ace, happy holidays. Always in your corner, and I'm so sorry that you have to go through this. Well, we're all going through it. Completely unreasonable punishment for us fans. Future is bright. Yeah, the future is so bright. The future is oh so bright, guys. Put your shades on, baby. You don't want to do any damage to those retinas. Get those glasses on. Protective eyewear always. Get your protective eyewear because the future is solar eclipse bright. Solar eclipse bright. Dire Distress says there is no window. It's been smashed already. I still think it's here for the taking, but it's going to take some moving and shaking that I think is completely outside of the realm of what Fitz is capable of doing. If we had a capable GM, I still believe in this team, but the changes need to happen, and they needed to happen yesterday. We're not seeing anything happen with him. 99.9% chance Fitz whiffs on Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly, Dano, Kadri, and any other player that would make sense. I mean, if you're just going by the track record, I certainly would agree with you. I've seen nothing from this man to give me confidence that he lands one of these guys that would help our team. I can only hope that he does, or that he gets fired and someone comes in that can do it. That'd be my primary hope. I don't want him making any more moves, honestly. Like, enough is enough. The damage is done. Let's just annex him out of here and have someone else try to salvage the disaster that he made. Ritter Anderson says, relax, folks. We're not getting Kadri. We'll be lucky to get another Sprong. What would the trade look like for Kadri? I honestly have no idea. I don't know. A pick and a prospect, maybe. I don't know. I don't think it'd be too crazy. but you got to give up something. You're not getting a guy like that for nothing. True Patriot ownership and Fitz the fraud are two peas in a pod. Mid involvement, get mid results. You don't hear the owner say anything about getting better. I think that's true. Mark, realistic package for Tage. Love to hear your opinion. Dude, I would pay an obscene amount for him. He would probably be my second. He would probably be second on my wish list, only to Brady Tkachuk. As you all know, he's my number one want. I think it's a pipe dream. But for Tage, I would give them a ton of stuff, guys. I mean, that's a organizational shifting type move. I would give a ton. World's Worst Gamer says, we are not getting Ryan O'Reilly. He's smart enough to not come to this clown show. I don't know. I do think that a lot of players probably would want no parts of coming here, but I think there's some players that could see the opportunity. And, if you're talking to them about potentially playing on a team that, when healthy, might be able to make a run, a real run in the playoffs, like, is it that hard of a sell? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think you could get guys on board to want to come here and be part of the solution. But I'm sure there is some guys that would want no part of coming here. All right, I got to speed ahead a little bit. Michael, if we can get Lomborg and Kadri for a package with Hamilton, I'd be pumped. Again, is Dougie going to agree to go there? Probably not. But I love Lomborg and Kadri. Those are both animals. The exact type of pieces that this team could use. Animals. Let's bring Billy and Quinn here. Pyro, I mean, what if Quinn also ends up really liking the Wild too and decides to sign long-term? Wild showing they're not afraid to hand out big bucks. I think that's a very real possibility. I do think a lot of people, a lot of Devils fans anyway, have been like, oh, it's, trying to, as a coping mechanism, or like, oh, it's fine, he'll be here in free agency. I used to think that it probably was a foregone conclusion. The way Billy G went about this and sniped him out from under us, I'm not counting Billy G out to re-sign him whatsoever. I think there's a real chance that Billy Guerin is able to re-sign him. And it is what it is. Mooseman, Keefe is not a cup-winning coach. He just isn't. He's Mr. Average Nice Guy. The Leafs had talent while he was there and never put it together. Same now with the Devils. I couldn't disagree more, man. Come on. Like, this guy's... He's forced to play 6 AHL guys on a nightly basis. Who's winning with that? Who? The fact that he got us to the playoffs last year was a miracle. I'm with you, Justin. Keefe is not the problem. Dakota Guerin is a legend for sure. Love Billy Guerin. Alex, Billy G is a gambler, and you have to love that he made that move for his team. Wilder built with great goalies, elite D, and offense that's just a piece or two from being cup contenders. Yeah. Artie says Bratt gave up. He's playing like crap to be traded. I don't think so. I just think Bratter's probably in a little bit of a funk right now in more ways than one. And I think a lot of these guys are. With the expectations coming into the season and the way the season started, losing like this takes a toll on you. And we just scored a single goal at home against the worst team in the NHL. I mean, let that sink in. It doesn't get any. The only lower it gets is if you got shut out. We were a Luke Hughes goal away from being shut out by the worst team in the league on home ice. Like, what more do you need to see? If you don't get it yet, I mean, your face is being rubbed in it. David, I'd rather Stammer or Ryan O'Reilly than Kadri. Kadri's contract takes him to 39 and has trade protection. Yeah, I know if that happens. Wait to see what goes the other way before judging. Yeah. In a vacuum, contract terms aside, I think I would want Kadri just because of the nastiness. But I would like any of these guys. Shit, I'm hoping there's somehow that, because you're asking for a lot to a single deal, right? If we're being honest here, asking for a single deal with one team is asking for a lot of Fitz in season, given what we've seen from him. And so that's why I think I'm hoping personally that he somehow makes a trade with the Predators and gets O'Reilly and Stamkos, because that's only one deal. He's not dealing with multiple GMs. You know, he could laser focus on this one deal and get two pieces. If you're trying to get two pieces and get them from different teams, I think that's already brain explosion territory for him, where he's definitely not capable. And then you end up with nothing. Ride and respect, thank you for the super. Was at the game today. Not many players looked good. Hischier and Dougie, most of all, really thought they'd beat the Quinnless Canucks. Sigh. I don't know why you'd think that, because maybe because they're the worst team in the league. It's just crazy. We're living in a dark time, and I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I really don't. I root for a loser franchise. Says Keefe is part of the problem. Talk it as the team as average as the Devils, and yet he got them playing. Are they as injured and with AHL guys as much as the Devils are? I doubt it. I'd have to double check, but I can't see that being the case. Jack McCabe, make a move to show to the room that you're committed. F the clauses, their way is out of them, have balls. Completely agree, but we're just getting more of the same, guys. Future's bright. Put the shades on. Don't want those retinas being damaged. Sunrise Arts Cinema, all three cup-winning teams had very different rosters aside from the core players. Pieces that we needed for those years. Lou had no fear. Fitz is weak. Completely agree. David, this is not a Fitz anger troll. I really would love the Wild to upset the Avalanche and win it all for Quinn, Kaprizov, and Billy G. Like that team made lots of playoffs with cap penalties. The right to assemble is literally in the Constitution. No, I mean, I know people could do it, but it's not in the Constitution that when you're doing this, you're going to get the result you want. Although I would find it hilarious if people really did some sort of protest. I don't think it's going to do anything. In the case of, you know, well, I don't know what the protest would be, fire Fitz or make a trade. I don't know. Danny, this GM is costing us a season because we are all getting all this offense when the defense isn't getting help. The goalies used to be good like Blackwood. We got bad goalies now. Our defense is bad again. We're just a decimated team. We're a decimated team. So I don't believe that no one would take Dougie if you have to pay the penalty. Whether that's retention, picks, prospects. I'm sorry. I just refuse to believe that nobody will take a chance on a veteran right-hand D like Dougie. He has value. Stick Figs, while this normally shouldn't matter, I'm afraid to this ownership, Dougie's social media presence and the revenue from that he brings in makes Dougie more untouchable than he should. Does he have some big social media presence? I don't think he does. I don't think this is part of it. I don't think he's that big of a deal, and he's not like a household name. Ace, I read numerous reports saying Quinn's agent would not guarantee he would sign an extension. Maybe it's because he wants to play with his brothers. Future is bright. Put on your red glasses again. No, that was obviously put out in the news a couple days ago that there were no guarantees. I think that's obviously to keep his options open. And I do believe his number one want would still be, or at least at the time, was to eventually come to the Devils in free agency. But guess what, guys? Things can change. That's a year and a half away. And so, like I said, I'm not counting Billy G out whatsoever. If anyone could kind of flip the script on this whole thing, it's Billy G. And he's got time. He certainly got time. I would not count him out. I think there's a very real chance that the Wild are able to extend him. David, thank you. Sit in at Fire and Ice Lounges led by Frank the Tank. Explain to me what that is. Pardon my naivete. I don't know what that is. What is Fire and Ice Lounges led by Frank the Tank? I'm curious to know what that is. I'm jumping back in over here. Pyro, I know some Toronto fans who tell you run away fast from Shanahan. I mean, listen, that's like dudes who dated a chick you're asking out, like, yo, stay far away. Like, sometimes you listen, but sometimes you're like, I don't know, maybe you're a little biased. But I do think, I don't recall offhand every move Shanny made or did not make with the Leafs, but I do think a lot of his shortcomings there were that I think that core four was poisoned. And it could be like we could be looking at a very analogous situation here with our core four. Now, I'm not saying that that's definitely true, but I do believe that core there, their main four guys were never going to get it done. And we may very well be at that point right now with this Devils core. And so I'm not going to blame that all on Shanahan. He's been around the game forever. And just like Marty, when I make the case for Marty, that he's, been around some very wise GMs over his career, been part of multiple cup winning teams, both in the NHL cup winning teams, and then was part of gold medal winning Canadian teams and part of, meandering with these executives and all these other GMs that he's been around his entire career. I would certainly take a chance with a guy like Shanny. No doubt about it. I want hockey minds that know what a winning team looks like more so than anything else. I want guys that know what they're looking at and can get a gauge on what a particular team needs to get them going. What element do they lack? How do I bring that here? And I think guys like Shanny and Marty could be good options. Collect records. What you said about Fitz not wanting to own his mistakes is so dead on. It's a terrible quality in a leader. Yeah. Circling back on this, it just seems like, a lot of people last year, myself included, when we saw what Zetterlund was traded from the Sharks to the Senators for, we were like, what the hell? We would have taken Zetterlund back. I think he got traded for a second-round pick. I don't remember, but whatever it was an underwhelming return. And when that happened, we're like, holy crap, we could have got Zetterlund back. But again, number one, who even knows if Fitz knew that Zetterlund was available? I mean, he's asleep at the wheel. So I'd imagine there is a very good chance he had no idea that Zetterlund was even being shopped. But he probably was not interested because, trading for a guy that you traded previously, is that admitting a mistake? And I think there's something to this, collect records. There's some other examples of this as well, but I think that this could be a thing as well. And it's like, dude, that is a terrible quality if true. I much rather have a GM that identified a past mistake and righted it versus a guy who lives in constant denial about it. I just go for the best person for the job. Absolutely. But that's not always crystal clear, especially with a general manager. Like there is no, you could rank them or however you think they're going to perform, but there's really no way to know for sure until they get there in the seat. Natasha says Bratt and Salayev for Tage and maybe a second. I think that's a yes for Buffalo. Oh, Tasha, you're crazy. Buffalo would never take that. David, other GM, let's make a deal. Fitz, let's have a lot of meetings first and conference our analytics department and another GM for a three-way trade after the meeting. Other GM, click. Mooseman says Fitzy is doing what the owners want him to do. They don't want a GM who is going to push them. That very well may be the case. A lot of people have speculated, and I forget if there was some reason for this, but that Ray Shiro basically did not want to play ball with whatever they were asking of him, and he was fed up, and that's kind of why he was forced out of here. But who knows? I don't know if there's any proof of that. If anyone remembers the details on that. Stick Figs, you guys don't have the vision that Fitz has. Clearly, he's referring to the bright 2050 to 2055 years, always playing 4D chess. Just trust in the process and don't croak before then. Robbie's bench toss. Tom inherited about as amazing of a blank slate as you can coming in as a new GM. Envious bones and picks to build with. How do you screw it up this badly? Yeah. And again, I said this recently, I think as well. No one has done less with more. Coming to a team with a ton of cap space, great foundational players in Jesper Bratt, nicohischier, and jackhughes. You then come into more draft capital, high picks, and it all just goes for nothing. We're just sitting here talking about how bright the future is. It's crazy. It's completely crazy. David says, I would never trade Kadri for Bratt. No way Kadri is putting up 80 points a year. Oh, no, that's ludicrous. You cannot trade, absolutely cannot trade Bratt in a deal for Kadri. If you're getting Kadri, that must be entirely on futures for sure. Whether that's a first and a prospect or whatever it is, no roster players should go in that deal, in my opinion. We need to add to the forward group, not detract from it. Oh, I'm sorry. No forward roster players. If you're talking about defense, different story. But you cannot take any pieces away from the forward group. They need additions, not lateral moves in terms of number of guys. Mooseman says Devils were never in the running for Quinn. They never had the pieces the Canucks were looking for. The Red Wings were closer. Completely disagree. I think if Fitz was willing to pay the price, he could have won the deal. The issue was the cap space. I'm not buying the pieces weren't there. Even if you had to overcompensate, we have things that could have got it done. Ryden respects that the Anaheim game had me full days. No, listen, I was as happy as everybody else with the win, but one of the first things I said in yesterday's live was, by no means does this mean everything's okay, but I'm happy for the 2 points. And keep it moving. Hope they could replicate the performance, but obviously they did not. And like I said, with all these guys injured, I believe you're going to see way more nights with results like we saw today, and the result being scoring a single goal in a loss to the worst team in the National Hockey League on our home ice. I think you'll see way more games like that than the Anaheim win. And it's because you're going into battle completely outmanned and outgunned. Not many teams in any pro sport are going to be able to win games regularly with a large percentage of your lineup being minor leaguers. It's just not going to happen. You can only get lucky or, kind of play above your heads so many times. Brian says, Dawes, Hamilton, Haminaho, Casey, a first-round pick gets you Stamkos and O'Reilly. Would you do it? Yeah, in a heartbeat. I don't think that gets it for you, though. I do that without thinking about it. Let me think about this. Stamkos and O'Reilly. Oh, with no retention, though? If you're talking no retention, then I have to really think about it. But because I don't even know if that would fit. Stammer makes 8, I think, and O'Reilly, and I really wouldn't want to be on the hook for that $8 million. But you are dumping. You're really not dumping any money outside of Dougie. I would need to know if they retained on Stam, or really it doesn't matter. I think they have one retention spot left. So if you got a decent amount of retention total, I think I probably would. But I'd need to know a couple more variables before concretely answering. Pyro says, so a 2C and a good prospect for Quinn. I'm fairly sure we could have crafted a deal as good as that. In cumulative value, now, do we have a bona fide 2C to offer? No. And obviously, some people were speculating, oh, we have Mercer. He's not really a center. He's better at wing. He wants to play wing. But I do believe you could have got over the hurdle of not having a legitimate center in the deal by overcompensating if you had to with an additional piece or whatever it is. I do think the Devils had plenty of assets at their disposal to top the offer. The issue, again, is they did not have the cap space, and therefore Rutherford was like, I'm done waiting. He went to the Wild. Constitution only covers protesting against the government, so we can go out on the sidewalk and protest, but the second we step foot on the Pru, that's trespassing. There's got to be some portion of it that's, and I'm not suggesting to do this, by the way. I just said I don't like these things at all, but I mean, I don't know where technically their property starts and ends, but certainly there's something that would be considered public property that's very close to it. Sunrise Arts, the owners just use their franchises to support their initiatives. They are billionaires that are out of touch, nor choose to really be in touch. They probably don't even watch every game. Oh, probably. They certainly don't watch every game. What are you, crazy? They're not watching this. Man, you guys are brutal in the chat. I'm getting closer to real time here. Bear with me. Why wouldn't Quinn want to extend? The Wild have a complete team. Wanting to play with your brothers is only worth so much. And that's where I think at some point, he might be like looking from afar, like, your team's kind of a disaster. I am tight with Billy Guerin, also the general manager of Team USA, obviously. So there's a linkage there. But I do think Billy G is kind of tight with their whole family. Billy G, big USA hockey guy. Him and Quinn will probably take the private jet out to Italy together for the Olympics. I think there's a real chance he signs there. Thirst Force says it means to sit in the Fire and Ice Lounge and not leave in protest. You'll swiftly be arrested. David, a sit-in is a protest. Aren't the premium bars the Rock called Fire and Ice Lounges? Yeah, you're getting cuffed. You're getting cuffed and stuffed. I would love to see a video if someone does it, though. Stevens Forever, thanks for giving me something interesting to listen while I clean. Minnesota will make Quinn captain or alternate ASAP just so he has more interest to stay, but we all know he wants to play with his blood. I don't think the letter really matters to him, honestly. I think a good environment and a winning culture and winning team probably means more than anything. Obviously, he'd like to play with his brothers, but the Wild will be able to offer, I think, is it the extra year? I think an extra year. And if they offer him the max contract when they're eligible, I don't know. They might be able to make it too hard to pass up. There's so many variables. Dalton, the Wild have an absolute shot at re-signing Quinn. People are downplaying how competitive the Wild are. Quinn just wants to win in the playoffs. If the Wild could do that, Quinn will re-sign with them. I think it's definitely a chance. James says, I was listening to Locked on Devils. Apparently the host there has heard ownership is looking to can Fitz for not making the Quinn deal. I mean, if there was any validity to that, then why isn't he already canned? I mean, if that's the case, then don't talk about it. Be about it. Why does he still have a job? He should have been fired immediately after the news broke that the Wild got him. Should have been canned. They don't need to look to fire him. They could fire him whenever they want. Dalton, if the Devils were willing to move heaven and earth to get Quinn, it would have happened this weekend. To get good players, you have to give up anything and everything. Within reason, but I think the biggest issue was, as Elliot Friedman reported, Fitz shot himself in the foot with those no move clauses and couldn't create the cap space. David, I think that was Shiro. He didn't want to tear down, but still have performance bonuses tied to record. Working from memory about articles, Fitz wanted promotion and willing to work in that framework. Fitz has a no fire clause. Alex, I don't know. It's so hard to comprehend. We had just as good of pieces for Quinn trade. It was the cap and no move clauses from Bonehead Boozeface that handcuffed us. That's the truth. That is the cold, hard truth. Gregory Shaw says, we all realized Tommy was recently promoted to president of hockey ops. No way they fire him. I think, I don't know. I'd like to believe that at some point something will have to give, despite the promotion. And I don't know, I don't think anyone will know if there's any sort of, things in his contract for buyout situations or termination. Does he get some sort of parachute payment? I don't know. But in the end, regardless of if there is some sort of financial penalty for them canning him, they should just take it on the chin and be done, because every day that he's here not doing something, there's more damage done to this team. And it's another day that someone else could be fixing it. Robbie's Bench Law says, Mercer's not a true center at this level. Rossi is. That's the difference for anyone saying our package is equal or better than Mins. It wasn't clearly. I have to disagree again. I think it's the cap space thing. I understand that the reports all said that Vancouver wanted a center, but, would you not take Mercer and maybe something else in place of Rossi? Like, I do think the Devils had the pieces to top the deal. Now, would it have had the legitimate center in it? No. But at some point, the overall, I think, value of what you were offering would have overtaken the Wilds. But you can't make an offer when you don't have cap space. And when you don't have cap space because you handed out bad contracts with trade protection, it's all a overwhelmingly obvious sign that you do not deserve to have your job anymore. Period. It's not trespassing until they ask you to leave. Alex says it comes down to public to private. Exactly. Yeah. But there's got to be, the streets are right there. So where does the private property really start? I guess for those of you planning to protest, it'd be something for you guys to figure out. Dakota says, if Quinn wants to win in the playoffs, Minnesota is the wrong place to be. Well, we'll see. We will see. Brian says, what would be worse in your mind, losing Parise after the 2012 run to the Wild or losing Quinn to the Wild now? And let's say he extends there. Oof. That's a good one. What would be worse? I guess my question is, we'll circle back to this. What is worse at the moment, or what is worse? I guess, yeah, what was worse at the moment, or what is worse, I guess, looking back on it? Wish we had Billy G, as do I. Alex, fairly sure I know your answer, Ace. Hughes brothers on the Devils or Tkachuk brothers? Is that what TK is? I mean, you're damn right you know my answer. Mia says, first we need to get rid of Dougie, then let's go and get Thompson. I love how so many people are talking about Tage. I'm all aboard the Tage wagon, but I just can't see it happening. I don't think they're going to trade him, but nothing would make me happier. And somehow, I will say this, that's one of the only things that would truly make not getting Quinn, missing out on Quinn, a kind of, make up for it, I guess. Getting a guy like him, because you weren't going to get him and Quinn, obviously. So if we somehow, and it's not going to happen, but let me just throw out the 0.0000001% chance of hope. If somehow that happened, then it would sort of excuse missing on Quinn, but it's not going to happen for many reasons. David Chime says, Dakota, they're handicapped by a dead cap from buying out bad contracts by prior GM. The fact that Billy G kept getting them in and having a good prospect pool is phenomenal. Now dead cap gone. Bonzo says, I'm done. Bye. This team doesn't deserve any interest. I get it, man. Mia, if Chris Drury can get rid of players with no movement, then Fitz can, but doesn't want to. That's what I'm saying. If you really want to get something done, you find a way to do it. There's no more excuses. All we get is excuse after excuse after excuse. David Chimes says, you think a judge in Newark is going to throw the book at a nonviolent fan protest inside the Rock with everything else he has to deal with? Who knows? Oh, man, if you guys do it, please film it and send it to me. Parise hurts more. He was ours. Yeah, and he was the captain of a conference champion that went to the Cup. So I will say that. Now, if you're talking about like years and years from now, I don't know. It depends how everything plays out with this. But yeah, Zach, homegrown, captain, Cup finals, berth. Who is going to take Dougie? Fitz should have moved him in the summer. He's absolute garbage now. I still think you find someone to take him. You're going to have to, like I said, you're going to have to pay that penalty. And I believe a big part of why he's still here is because Fitz does not want to pay that penalty. And he was probably thinking he was going to, pull this fancy trade. It's going to be this real smooth operation he was going to do. And it was going to get out scot-free without paying the tax. That tax is going to have to be paid. And that's why someone else should be the one to handle it. He doesn't like admitting he was wrong, like people said. I can totally see that being true. Richard, Parise was tough, but he really wanted to be in Minnesota. Now, if Covey hadn't handcuffed the organization, maybe the additional money would have kept him in New Jersey, but he was all going home. James says, in regard to public versus private property, the sidewalk is where the public property begins. You cannot be arrested there. That being said, protests would be stupid. I kind of agree with that. Just spread the word. Don't buy tickets. That's where I'm at. Just vote with your wallet. You guys are really into this thing, huh? If anyone wants to protest, buy a cheap ticket on game day. Then you have a right to be on the property, and they need stronger reason to kick you out. Makes things much harder to get you off the property. Oh, man. I do hope to see video clips of some sort of protests, but I can't see it. And again, I don't think it brings about any positive change. The only thing I think that does anything to bring about change is unfortunately voting with your wallets, and that's it. This is hilarious. He says, Ethan, my defense is, why do people get to sell the hats outside the arena and we can't protest? It is crazy that they allow people to get away with that, but the team will crack down on a ton of other stuff. But technically, these people are selling bootleg, right? It's not licensed merchandise. So they're technically infringing on copyright and trespassing. But no one says shit to them. It is so true. They're literally selling copyright infringement items while trespassing and directly taking money out of their pocket from the concession stand by selling cheaper goods outside. No one says a word to those people. But I guarantee you they would try to do something. Now I hope people try to protest. And I don't even like protests. But it would just be too entertaining for me to see. Nolan says, just saw a clip of Corey Schneider for losing the worst team in the NHL without Quinn, also saying they lack that extra gear to win a game. Sad state of affairs. Travelin says, Fitz is trying to send Dougie to Calgary for Ball. Oh, man. Mark, Bratter and Nemo for Tage. That's hard to swallow for NJ, but it's a culture-changing move, and Edwards or Casey need an opportunity soon. I think that is a compelling offer. Now, do they take that? I don't know, Mark. I don't know if they do. And I'm sure there's people that would kind of be probably a 50-50 amongst our fan base. But those are the types of hard moves that we've talked about in the past that Lou would make to truly try to win a cup. They all can't be layups. They all can't be a bunch of spare parts for a guy like Timo Meier. Those trades are easy to make. Can you make a trade like this? And I'm not saying this is the trade, but something along the lines of what Mark has pitched here. Those are the really hard trades that truly move teams forward. Oh, man. Stevens forever. I've wanted the Devils to get Gudis ever since he was on the Panthers with that beautiful hip check. We need scary defense that will lay you out, not just poke or steal. I love Gudis, but we have a lot of defensemen, so I'm not interested. But I would like a forward equivalent of him. But I was with you before all of the, a couple of years ago, before we had the defensive depth that's kind of come into play now. I wanted Gudis badly. And I'll never forget the photo. I forget was it against the Leafs? I forget what he was with. A goal got scored and he was screaming in the goalie's face, like face to face. Epic. David, saw a report that Dawson-Mercer for Blake Coleman. Would you do it? No, that's a lateral move to me. That's one forward out for another forward. We need to add to the forward group. Now, I've also said if it's a significant clear-cut upgrade, then I would entertain it, right? So if you're talking about including Mercer in a deal for Tage Thompson, I'm 1,000% signing off on it. That I'll do. But if you're talking about Mercer for Coleman, to me, that's, one guy out, one in. Coleman is not a significant upgrade, in my opinion, over Mercer whatsoever. And so I would love Coleman, but again, for guys like that, you got to use future pieces. Don't be giving up roster pieces for guys like Coleman. If you're not talking about the Tage Thompsons of the world, there's not many guys even in that echelon. But if you're talking about a really impactful piece, then anything and everything's on the table. But for a guy like Coleman, no, I'm not trading Mercer. I think that would be just another misstep. And you got to try to get guys like him or guys in that world for future pieces, picks and prospects. Win now. That is what teams trying to win now do. Brian says there are 9 teams with $9 million or more in cap space, 5 of which are in the playoff hunt. If you think nobody would take a 32-year-old veteran right-handed D-man as much as he sucks, you're nuts. I'm right with you, Brian. He has value to the right team. And I do believe you could find a taker. And like I said, you probably have to pay that penalty tax. But we're at the point now where you cannot be
defiant about that anymore. However you have to get this done, you get it done. But for all the people like, no one's going to take Doug, I don't believe that whatsoever. To your point, Brian, there is a home for him, or several, maybe even a few potential new homes for him. You obviously have to get him to agree to it, and you need to pay that penalty because they're probably at this point not going to take him without some sort of, again, either retention or the sweetener. Obviously, I would prefer to not have the retention, to try to free up as much cap money as possible and just give them the picks or whatever it is that you're paying as the penalty, because you got to do it. Philip, I think they have hats for like $10, I believe. There's people outside selling, the bootleg stuff every game. Pulp Mystic says Nemo plus Bratter is too much for Tage. I agree. I'd love to see Tage here, but should be able to get it done without blowing up our roster. Pulp Mystic, I would make the argument that Nemo and Bratt, I don't know that that's too much for him. It could be, but my first thoughts when I saw it was like, ooh, that's kind of a somewhat even-ish trade. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on one second. Let me just check something. Yeah, Tage Thompson is signed up through the 29-30 season at $7.1 million. I make that trade, guys. I forgot how low the cap hit was. I knew it was very good. I didn't realize it was that low. At $7.1 million for several more years. Yep, I make that trade. And Pulp Mystic, that doesn't blow up our roster. Or even if you don't call it an upgrade, you're doing the lateral move, if you could call it that, Bratt, for the bigger physical Tage, and we needed to find a spot for Kovacevic when he returns on defense anyway. I think I do that trade. Richard, spitball draft. Brady available, Jack available. Guys, Brady is my unicorn. Ernad, Ace, your Devils GM today. Top 3 moves you'd make. I would try to pry a piece, like, again, as unrealistic as it is, or maybe, I'm trying to land a Brady Tkachuk or a Tage Thompson, period. Even if they're not available, I'm calling their GM and making offers. I'm offering ridiculous packages because landing one of those guys is a culture shifting move. I'm not going to say it's the exact same thing, but it would be the closest thing you're going to get to like when Bill Zito traded Huberdeau away to get Matthew Tkachuk. Like that would be our Tkachuk move. Now, I'm not saying these guys are Tkachuk will have the same impact, but Brady or a guy like Tage, in my opinion, would be that sort of culture shifting move. And so I try to do that. If you cannot get one of those guys, which you probably couldn't, then you turn your attention to what we've all been saying. You get the 3C, whether it's the O'Reilly, the Kadri, or whatever. And if you could add a physical top 6 winger that could score a little bit. And I think those two pieces would really help this team. Nolan, is there any actual trades and talks at all or just rumors? I know we talked about Tage and others. There's not. How the hell would I know? I'm not part of Sleepy Fitz's camp. Right now, all we got is rumors. Ethan, I secretly think the people selling the hats have an agreement with the team or something. There's zero chance. Zero chance. Blake doesn't want to leave Calgary. Is that true? He probably has a nice setup there. He's probably like, I already got my cups. Screw you guys. I'm not going back to New Jersey. Ethan, Ace, look up FC Haka. Well, let me tab that for later. And see what they did because they got relegation. They set the arena on fire. What the hell is relegation? I'll look into this later. David Chimes, just a side note on Coleman, heard on Hockey Night in Canada last night. 3rd most career shorties among active players behind Marchand and Pajot. Wow. Ace, we could bring McDavid here and it wouldn't do anything until we change the locker room culture of not giving a shit. I agree with that, but I do think certain guys, that immediately changes with the presence of certain guys. And you saw it with Matthew Tkachuk in Florida. Like that guy is just a leader on and off the ice. If you haven't seen their podcast, check out Wingmed Podcast. It's Brady and Matthew Tkachuk. And when I thought I couldn't like the both of them anymore, watching the podcast, especially the most recent episode, it's just classic. Absolutely classic. And this is the bigger problem. Brad isn't waving to go to Buffalo, and even they aren't inept enough to trade Tage. I agree. Brad has trade protection. You know, could you find a destination for him? Maybe that he would agree to go to. But they would also have to have a piece that's worth trading him for. Furthermore, I'm not demanding we trade Brad, obviously. So just to not be confused for people that are maybe joining late or whatever, I love Brad, and he is a very valuable piece of this team. But as I've maintained since the beginning of time, there really is no such thing as untradeable to me for the most part. If there is a deal to be made that improves the team, then you must look into it. And that includes everyone. Louis says people undervalue Tage if you think Bratt and Nemo gets that deal done. Yeah, I don't think it does either. I think they would get a haul for him, especially with the cap hit in place for like 5 or 6 more years. It's crazy. 7.1 million. Yeah, you might need to give him a lot more than that. David, the Tage trade suggestion is sounding more convincing than I initially thought. Sabres GM rumored to be on the chopping block by credible sources may not be allowed to make a deal right now. If there's any smoke coming out of Buffalo that guy may be on the table, Fitzgerald should be first in line to offer a ton of pieces. Brian Hamilton, what is this? Hamilton 9 million, Plot 6 million, Mercer 4 million, Nemitz first round pick 918K is 19.9 going out for Stamkos O'Reilly. I just can't see them doing that. That's interesting. Let me think about this. At this point, you'd be happy to give away Dougie and Palat for free. Let's be real, just to get the money freed up. 15. So you're basically giving up of things of value. And I do like Palat, but just the $6 million is egregious. So you're talking about Mercer, Nemitz, and a first. Mercer, Nemitz, and a first for both of them. That's an interesting one. That one I'd have to really analyze because then you're on the hook for the Stamkos full money. I don't know that I love that, but you're also ditching. It's like you're trading bad contract for bad contract. So it's kind of a lateral situation-ish. That's an interesting one. It's a big trade. I propose that's what it would take to handle our cap issues and would complete a roster overhaul. I'm not mad at it. I'd have to really sit down and take my time with that. Oh, relegation is when you get knocked out of one league to a lower league. Yeah, that kind of sucks. I heard the Devils are being relegated to the AHL next week. My buddy Goody, hey, Ace, I'm late to the stream, but it's wild that this game was decided when we took those 2 penalties on the first. Yeah. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. The game was over before it started. Poor Markey. Poor Markey cannot get a solid performance from the boys in front of him to save his life. Like, you know, obviously he's not completely blameless in a lot of these bad games, but the team has just done nothing in front of him on many nights. And then combined with him struggling, it's a disaster. Jax's culture change starts with changing captain. Same shit, different year with Nico as the C. I'm not going to pin it all on him. Like I said, though, they're fair questions to ask. And that's what happens when you start losing like this. All of these things become fair questions to ask. I don't know that it is true, but it's a fair question to pose. Brian, Nico being the captain ain't the issue. Makes no sense what you're saying. Who would you want to be the captain? How much would that change his dumpster fire? If we had Cape Dollar, if we had relegation over here, the Devils would be a beer league team years away from the big time. Terrible. Our Cincinus. I really think the only move Fitz makes is firing the coach. Oh, if he tries to make Sheldon Keefe the scapegoat for this, that'd be insane. That would be the most ballsy nonsense thing I've ever seen. Be like, no, he's the problem. Now there's a constant here. There's a constant over the time of the underperforming and losing. And the constant is the general manager and the core. David, not sure why as Devils fans we get suckered into any trade realistically happening. So many names thrown out linked to the Devils, and 90% of them never happened. It's all just speculation. I agree with that. We're rumored to everybody, and it never gets done. We're the second place Kings and the rumor mill media darlings, but nothing ever happens. He literally gets nobody. The last time, it was Timo. All the rumors about Timo, and then he gets him. Outside of that, all the other names we've ever been rumored to, nothing. Louis Tage is the cornerstone of Buffalo's entire O group. They're looking for players to play with him. Getting rid of him is a step back. So unless Tage asks to leave, I cannot see them trading him. That's kind of where I'm at. But if they just come to the reality that they're not going to be able to field a truly competitive team, like in the near future, that they may, I don't know, I guess go into more of another phase of a rebuild. I don't know. Greg, no way Stammer comes here. He's going to lose money as Tennessee is a tax-free state. Just checked. He has a no-move clause. I do think the chance, I'm not saying it's a definite and that he would, but I do think, especially if you gave him the opportunity to play with Jack and then be on a team that hopefully makes the playoffs, obviously he would lose out a little bit of money, but that man is not crying for money whatsoever, which is why he did lose some points in my book when he signed that deal in that summer, because he went to a tax-free state and basically got them for the most money he could. I thought he was going to really sign for a little bit less with a kind of cup favorite to try to get another cup and kind of stick it to the Lightning, but he went for a career payday. But who knows? If he's all about the money, he will stay there. If he's not, he would waive to go to a team where he has a chance to win. And I think the Devils, when healthy, plus him, and if you're telling him he could play with Jack, I think that may be too much for him to pass up on. But who knows? If he's all about the money, then he'll just stay chilling in Nashville. Zoom boozes. There needs to be a culture change. We look more demoralized and lifeless than the team that just lost its franchise player. Yeah, I said yesterday, this could go one of two ways. They could either go into like a downward spiral, or they could come out with a little extra oomph with something to prove. And one, their new Zeev, boom, go on an assist. Unbelievable. A big role in the win. And a key piece that landed Minnesota, Quinn Hughes. But you're discounting the value of getting proven veteran playoff players and also discounting the fact we're moving big contracts out of here, giving us... No, I'm not. No, it's true. I'm less concerned about overpaying at this juncture. The team needs to do something big. This isn't working. No, I agree. And you might have to make a deal or two that is considered an overpayment to correct the problem. Prezify, hearing some noise around Tom Fitzgerald last couple of days talking about a potential let go from Arthur Staple. I saw that tweet, I believe it was. Well, that was a tweet, right? Just because it's out there doesn't mean it's going to happen. But again, like, what is the holdup? We've now lost 7 of the last 9. The guy failed to deliver the prize. He did not get Quinn here, and the team is sucking. What more do you need to do before he gets canned? I mean, do we have to lose 10 out of 12, 12 out of 14? What is the metrics they're looking for to be like enough is enough? Because we're watching it in real time. Joe, Markstrom is getting the short end of the stick. Dylan's deflection caused that second goal, but 2 power plays in that short time span. Fate was decided. Yeah. Turco, what's going on, my man? Bottom line, everyone knew we needed to trade for another center since the beginning of the season, and it hasn't happened. Yeah, this is all true. And now that half of the top talent is out and a trade still hasn't happened. Again, tell them this is what makes it the most frustrating, is that everyone knew at a minimum 3C was a big need and the top 6 wing. We moved on from Toffoli. He was never replaced. Okay, they kind of try to do it by committee, whatever. It hasn't panned out the best. But in the end, now you say 3C is definitely needed. A real 3C to push Glass to 4C makes this team better. And that's a piece you need even when Jack Hughes is healthy. And so I'm not trying to, people are saying, oh, you're not going to replace Jack. No one's trying to replace Jack. You're not replacing Jack. But these are pieces we need even with Jack healthy. And so there is no point in waiting. We need the pieces when Jack is here. And we certainly need him when Jack is not here and Timo's not here and Grits is not here and Nemo is not here. You need it even more than ever. And you saw it tonight. We scored a single goal in a loss on home ice to the worst team in the league. Worst team in the league. Turco says fire Fitz. Absolutely. My buddy Goody, our drafting team is cheeks. I can't put a ton of blame on the core because if the core had better pieces around them and solid prospects, the team would be more consistent. Fire the entire front office. Clean it out, baby. Listen, I have to put some blame on the core because even if you're surrounded with nothing, you cannot fall off the way you have without Jack Hughes. And so some of the onus it absolutely must go on these players. However, to your point, I do believe there's been an even bigger failure by Fitz to bring in those right complementary pieces. It has not happened. It has not happened. Vote with your wallet. Alex says, Jack, I asked for a competent winger on my line. Breaks glass. Terrible, guys. All right, folks, I got to run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in a minute. I drank a lot of water today. Shout out to everybody for coming here. I don't want to be so negative, but I'm at my breaking point now, guys. Like, we've seen enough. The season is going to be slipping away, and I'm furious. You should be infuriated too. I mean, if you're still, living with the blinders on, then God bless. I can't live my life that way. We've seen this before. Scoring a single goal against the worst team in the entire league on home ice. Like, you got to wake up, folks. But I'll be back in a minute. I'll leave the game stats up there for a minute. Be right back. This game ruined my appetite. I was supposed to go to my mother's for Sunday dinner. I don't even know if I have an appetite. Toffoli, 4 points at Pittsburgh. I mean, listen, again, I do say that I defend Fitz for some stuff because I do think he has a list of crimes 10 miles long, but people try to kind of sneak other ones on there that I don't think are fair. Like the Toffoli thing sucked. I liked when we traded for him. It was a win now move. It didn't pan out. They didn't want to pay him the money. And so unfortunately, we had to cash him in a buyer's market, and we failed to get a first round pick for him, which really pissed me off. But I feel like at the time that was the right thing to do. The wrong thing to do, though, was I assumed foolishly. I don't know why I assumed this. Again, giving people way too much credit. I thought the money that Toffoli was asking for was going to be put towards a different top six winger, and it never happened. One of the many missteps of the administration, for sure. Not replacing Toffoli. We got another trade proposal. Bratt, Palat if he'll waive, which he won't. Casey, a first and a fourth for Tuck and Thompson. Oh, that trade package is super light. You wish you could get that approved. There's zero chance they would accept that. Yeah, they would never do that. That's ridiculously low. At first, I didn't realize that you had Tuck in there, and I was like, I don't think that's even getting one of them. We're going to be smacked by Vegas. Oh, boy. Dire Wolf. The more you look at Fitzy's entire body of work, the angrier you get. Holtz over Askarov and several other draft blunders. No move. Clauses handed out like candy. He wasted such a good situation. Completely down the drain. Completely down the drain. James says, all I want for Christmas is Fitz termed. Crazy Alex, I guess Fitz will get let go and continue to not try in the process as a last push and just accept defeat? I have no idea. He's going nowhere. David, thanks for the show, Ace. It was fun to listen to while watching the Penguins-Utah game. Now going to OT, worth watching if you can. Have a good one, my man. What a terrible Sunday afternoon. David, this is an obscure stat. Marty gave up a goal less than 2 minutes into a game 4 times in his whole career. Markstrom's done that 4 times in his last 4 games. That is wild. Wild stat. That is depressing and wild. Robbie's bench toss. Fitz signs Market to an extension, and he's been terrible. Can't make a deal to move out salary, and in the process screws up one thing ownership has wanted, getting Quinn here. Yeah, this should all be grounds for termination, as they say. Grounds for termination. Robbie's bench toss. Maybe that's finally enough misses for HBSE to act amongst many misses. I hope. Alex Ace, be careful at mom's dinner with the knives and glass. We don't need you on LTIR. Oh, boy. A drum circle in the plaza will fix everything. Yeah, Chase Stillman. I mean, that one sucked too, but that's not as big of a miss as Holtz. Holtz was a 7th pick. I think Stillman was like 21 or something. You know, late first-round picks especially could be kind of dicey, but it is certainly another misstep. I'm not nearly as aggravated about that one as I am about Holtz. All right, that's it, guys. I'm furious. I am furious. I am disgusted. And it sucks, you know? It really sucks, but so is life. Terrible. The Devils lose, guys. If you're just getting here and you're not unaware, New Jersey Devils lose by a score 2-1 at home to the worst team in the National Hockey League, the Vancouver Canucks. And it's dark times. It is dark times. We could only hope for change. Not the illusion of change, actual change. And by actual change, I mean impactful trades or Tom Fitzgerald being shown the door. Ideally, I'd like to see both. I'd like to see Tom Fitzgerald shown the door and then a new competent GM to come in and make the moves that we need to see. But my faith is at an all-time low. I am just beaten down and feel defeated at this moment. But all we could do is hope for the best as fans. Devils, thankfully, not playing for a couple days. Give my sanity a break. Back in action Wednesday night in Vegas, taking on the Golden Knights. And oh boy, if I'm Akira Schmid, I'm begging for that start. Looking to complete the home and home shutout. What a grand middle finger it would be from Akira Schmid, franchise legend, to his former employer, the New Jersey Devils. What a legend that, even just getting the win. But obviously the shutout would be, on top of his shutout from last week, would be the ultimate. But even just getting the win would be phenomenal for him, I'm sure. I mean, I think we're going to get destroyed in that game, honestly. Oh, it sucks, guys. It really sucks. The 5-star, Shanny's on my list for sure. But that's it. I need some food, and I need to just disconnect from everything that's gone on as of late. But guys, never forget, protect your retinas. The future is bright. Hit that thumbs up on the way out. I am working on a ton of cool stuff as always. Keep your eyes peeled. I'm going to have some interesting stuff coming up. And that's it. Appreciate all of you. I hope this was somewhat therapeutic for some of you. It was a little therapeutic for me, not that much. I only feel like a tiny little bit better after venting, but I'm still furious and upset, angry, all those things. But protect your eyes above all. You know, you only get one set of eyes. The future is so bright. You need to protect your retinas. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends. Let's go. Devils.